Good morning. Welcome sa press briefing ni Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella.
Good morning. This morning we have special resource persons to deal with the tax reform for acceleration and inclusion. We have Assistant Secretary Paula Alvarez, and prior to her post at the Department of Finance, she served as the official spokesperson of the PDP Laban political party during the 2016 campaign. She worked closely with Senate President Aquilino Pimentel III and Secretary Alfonso Cusi. Attorney Alvarez obtained her law from the Ateneo. With her is Undersecretary Carl Kendrick Chua, the Chief Economist and Undersecretary for the Strategy, Economics and Results Group of the Department of Finance. In his capacity, he helps the government achieve its 10-point socioeconomic agenda. He leads a tax reform program. He did his MA in Economics and doctorate in Economics also at the University of the Philippines School of Economics. Ladies and gentlemen of the Malacanang Press Corps, let us give a warm welcome to DOF spokesperson Secretary Paula Alvarez and Undersecretary Carl Kendrick Chua.
Magandang tanghali po sa lahat. Ang ibabahagi ko po ngayon ay yung programa namin sa tax reform na inihain po namin sa Kongreso yung nakaraang September. Ngayon po na-file na to as House Bill 4774 ni Chairman ng Ways and Means, Dax Cua. Ang vision po ng tax reform ay hindi lamang mangolekta po ng revenue o dahil meron tayong deficit na kailangan i-plug. Ngunit ang totoong dahilan po dito ay gusto natin makita na umunlad yung bansa natin. By 2022, gusto natin bumaba yung poverty rate from 22% to 14%. Gusto natin makita yung bansa natin na maging upper middle income country kung nasaan nasa yung China at yung Thailand ngayon. Tapos kung tuloy-tuloy natin gagawin tong reforma, by 2040, one generation from today, gusto natin na mawala na yung absolute poverty at maging high-income country na po yung Pilipinas, tulad po ng South Korea at ng Malaysia. At wala pong shortcut dito. Kailangan po natin mag-invest sa infrastruktura, sa pangkalusugan, sa edukasyon. Ang tansya po namin, on top of the 1.7 trillion na ginagastos po natin sa investment, 1 trillion additional po yung kailangan natin taon-taon. Pero sa Duterte administration, dahan-dahan natin iakyat to. Ang kailangan po natin mga 366 billion. Ito po ay alinsunod sa pagtaas po ng budget natin. Pagdoble po ng spending sa infrastructure, education, social protection at sa health. At wala pong shortcut dito. Pwede po tayo umutang pero siyempre ayaw natin ipasa yung interest payment sa ating mga anak at sa mga apo natin. Kaya gusto po natin gawin yung tax reform. Dalawa pong klaseng tax reform ang ginagawa po namin. Yung una po, yung tax policy, ito po ay dadaan po sa Kongreso dahil may mga adjustment na gagawin sa tax system natin. Yung pangalawa po ay yung tax administration. Ito po ay nangangulugan na dapat mas maging mabuti po ang implementasyon ng tax natin sa BIR at BOC para hindi po mahirapan yung taong bayan. At dahil dito ay malaki po ang ating investment gap. Halimbawa po, meron po tayong mga 3,700 kilometers na national gravel road na sana po ay makongkreto po natin. Meron tayong over 10,000 kilometers na asphalt road na mas maganda kung konkreto. Meron din tayong more than 32,000 kilometers na local roads na gravel. At kung maayos po natin mga ito, ay pwede pong bumaba yung bilihin ng mga pagkain kasi mas efficient po yung transportation. Meron din po tayong more than 7,000 barangays sa 23,000 sitios na hindi po konektado sa national road. Kaya hindi po dumarating yung serbisyo sa kanilang lugar. At meron po tayo more than 1 million irrigated land na dapat i-irrigate. Ito po ay popondahan ng ating tax reform. Sa urban areas naman po, ito po ay mga previous slide. Ito po yung mga halimbawa po ng mga projects na ipopondo natin na ihahain sa 2018 budget. Kung wala pong tax reform, mahirapan po tayong pondohan itong mga infrastruktura na to na para masolusyonan po yung mga traffic at yung mga congestion. Sa education po, gusto natin 100% enrollment at completion rate. Meron tayong kailangan na more than 100,000 classrooms and almost 200,000 teachers para po mas gumanda ang kalidad ng public education system natin. Sa health naman po, meron po tayong gusto gustong i-upgrade na mga 700 local hospitals. Yung mga 18,000 na barangay at rural health center na kailangan din itayo dahil kulang po sa rural areas. Gusto natin 100% PhilHealth coverage sa mas mataas na kalidad at mas mababang premium. At meron po tayong kakulangan ng mga 50,000 health workers. In short, ito pong programa natin, ito ay alinsunod sa 10-point socio-economic agenda ng Pangulo. Nag-promise po siya ng tax reform na mas mababang buwis, pero nag-promise rin po siya ng 8 pang other priorities na kailangan pondahan. At dahil dito, naisipan po namin na ayusin po yung ating income and other tax system. So ang gusto namin ay maging simpler, fair at more efficient yung tax system para po ito ay tumulong po sa pag-unlad ng ating bansa. Ngayon po, ang good news sa personal income tax, mataas po yung ating tax rates at naiwan na po tayo ng ibang bansa. Kaya ang gusto po namin ay yung first 250,000 magiging exempt na po. Ito ay makikinabang yung 83% ng taxpayers. Kasama na po dito yung personal exemption na 50,000 at yung additional exemption per dependent na 25,000 up to 4 kids. Yung 82,000 na 13th month at yung bonuses, ito ay exempt pa rin. Wag lang lumampas sa 82,000. Kaya ito ay magbibigay ng ginhawa sa 83% ng taxpayers. Yung mga sumusweldo po na mas mataas sa 250,000, mas mababa na po yung tax rates nila. Halimbawa, yung ngayon po, kung 500,000 a year po yung sweldo nyo, 32% na po yung tax rate. Sa tax reform namin, bababa ito sa 25%. Tapos pagkalipas po ng 3 taon, bababa pa ito sa 20%. So ito ay malaking ginhawa po sa taong bayan. At yung mga maliliit po na taxpayer, isa-simplify po natin yung tax system. Halimbawa po, yung minimum wage ngayon, wala pong silang binabayaran na buwis at mananatiling zero rin yung ating yung tax payment po nila. Yung isang clerk na 15,000 yung salary, meron po siyang binabayaran ng mga 7,000 to 8,000. Under the tax reform, tax-free na rin po ang clerk. Pati na rin po ang call center na 21,000 yung sahod ay makakauwi po siya ng additional 22,000 almost. At kung dalawa po sila nagtatrabaho, almost 40,000. At marami po ang makikinabang dito. Pero malaki po, siyempre, ang mawawala sa ating budget. At kailangan pondohan po natin yung mga kakulungan po sa infrastruktura, sa edukasyon at sa pangkalusugan. Kaya po naisipan po namin una ay, so ito po yung clerk, so next is yung call center. Okay, next slide. Yung una pong gusto namin gawin, next slide, ay ayusin po natin yung VAT system natin. Yung VAT kasi natin 12% VAT, pero meron po tayong 59 lines of exemptions sa tax code. At sa labas po ng tax code, 59 lines, 59 special laws yung nagbibigay ng exemption. Ito po ay napakagulo at hindi po fair kasi maraming nagbabayad ng VAT pero marami rin po ang exempt. At ito ay nagli-lead po sa malaking leakage. Kaya aayusin po natin. Ang good news po dito, ang senior citizen VAT exemption at sa PWD ay hindi tatanggalin. Pero ang gagawin po natin ay aayusin po natin yung sistema, for example, through a national ID, para yung leakage ay maiwasan na ang benepisyo lang ay mapupunta sa tamang tao. Yung ibang exemption po ay para lang maging fair. At kung kailangan pong tulungan yung mga co-ops, yung mga low-cost housing, gagawin po natin ito sa mas mabuting paraan sa pamamagitan ng subsidy sa budget side, hindi po sa tax side. Yung pangalawa po, yung oil excise, ito po ay very sensitive. Yung unang mungkahi po natin ay taasan ito ng 6 peso per liter, whether gasoline, diesel, kerosene, LPG. Bakit po? Kasi ito ay hindi na nagalaw yung nakaraang 20 taon. At itong 6 peso, ito po yung nawalang halaga ng excise tax yung over the last 20 years. At dahil nakinig rin po kami sa mga concerns ng mga stakeholders sa taong bayan, ang gagawin po natin ay staggered yung increase. 3 peso muna, tapos sa susunod na taon, additional 2, and sa 2019, additional 1. Marami po nagsasabi na ito ay anti-poor, pero ang katotohanan po nito, yung top 10% po, yung pinakamayaman na 10% na Pilipino, sila ay kumakonsumo na ng 50% ng mga oil products. Tapos yung top 1% ay 13%. Dahil po sila ay may kotse at maraming kotse. Yung mga sumasakay po ng jeep, ng bus, hinahati naman po nila ito with 20 or 40 other people. At meron din kaming concern na dapat masolusyonan yung congestion, yung traffic, yung pollution, yung health costs ng paggamit po ng mga maduduming sources of energy. Ang susunod po ay yung automobile excise. Ito po ay solusyon din sa traffic at sa congestion. Pero gagawin rin natin very progressive. Yung mga mas mamurang kotse ay mas mababa yung tax. At yung mas mahal, yung SUV at yung mga luxury, mas mataas. At ang gusto kong iparating dito, kahit aakyat po yung excise sa automobile, mas malaki po yung pagbaba ng income tax. Kaya sa isang average Filipino na bibili rin ng kotse, let's say a Vios or a Innova, mas marami po siyang savings even if he or she chooses to buy a car. Ang net effect po sa revenue natin, magbibigay po tayo ng next slide ng 139.6 billion in the form of lower income tax. So malaki po yung makukuhang additional pay ng mga taxpayers. Pero kailangan din natin pondohan yung mga priority programs ng administrasyon. Kaya ang babawiin po natin sa VAT, sa excise sa fuel at sa automobile. Pero nakadesenyo po ito para maging very equitable na yung mayaman mas malaki yung babayarin at yung mahirap mas maliit. At ang net effect natin 162.5. Kailangan natin to para mapondohan yung 2018 budget na magtutugon sa problema natin sa kahirapan at inequality. Yung next slide po, ito yung example. Kung bumili po yung isang taxpayer ng next slide ng Vios o Innova, yung nakikita nyong yellow, ito po yung increase in their take-home pay. Mas mataas po ito kaysa yung dagdag na babayarin nila sa oil excise kahit bumili po sila ng kotse o kahit tumaas ng bahagya yung inflation rate dahil sa pagtaas po ng oil. Ngayon po, paano naman po yung mga yung mga hindi taxpayers, yung minimum wage and below? Ang naisipan po natin ay tataasin natin yung VAT threshold kasi ayon sa current regulation natin, pag yung micro-enterprise, ang gross sales niya bababa sa 1.9 million, VAT exempt, ito yung mga sari-sari store or karinderya, tataasin po natin sa 3 million para mas hindi ma-affect yung mga poor. At yun sa oil excise po ay may tatlo po kaming pinopropose na subsidy. Una po yung cash transfer to the, before pa. Sige, previous slide yan. Dito muna tayo. Cash transfer na mga 300 per month for 1 year, temporary to, na ibibigay natin sa pinakamahirap na 10 million households para yung moderate and sudden increase ng inflation ay hindi sila maapektuhan masyado. After 1 year, usually ang inflation ay nagmamoderate na. Pangalawa po ay pantawid pasada. Ito po ay ginawa sa nakaraang 2 administrasyon. Ang gagawin po natin ay ibabalik natin para masubsidize po yung mga public utility vehicles para walang pass-through po sa jeepney fares or sa other public transport fares. At yung pangatlo po ay tutugunan po natin yung problema ng mga public sector na inefficient ngayon. Yung jeep modernization para yung kanilang engines maging more efficient. Halimbawa po, pag nag-modernize po yung jeep, yung kanilang 4 kilometers per liter na efficiency ay magiging 8 to 10 kilometers. So bawing-bawi po kahit na mag-increase po tayo ng diesel excise. At ang susunod po, ito po ay ating epekto sa income ng mga taong bayan. Yung green ay yung positive increase sa income for the poor. Yung D1 ay decile 1, meaning yung bottom 10% po ng population. Sila po ay makikinabang talaga once na yung ating tax reform ay ibalik natin sa pamamagitan ng mas mabuting social assistance and public services. Siyempre, yung mga mayaman po, yung negative na red, sila po ay dapat mag-contribute dahil gusto natin very progressive yung tax system. May mga concerns po, next slide, na ang inflation ay tataas pero hindi naman po totoo. Ang estimate po natin, yung inflation natin na 1.8 ngayon ay tataas lang naman ng 1.5. So ang total maximum is 3.3% sa 2017 or 2018 kung kailan ma-implement tong tax reform. At ito ay within yung central bank target na 2 to 4%. At pag ginawa po natin yung ating social assistance, mas bababa pa to. Yung next slide, yung history po natin, yung tinaas po natin yung VAT sa 2004 at yung naging over 100 po ang Dubai price crude. Ang totoo po ay yung inflation natin tumaas pero moderate lang. At ang GDP natin bumaba pero moderate lang. Pero dahil sa magandang reforma ng nakaraan, ito po ay nagdulot ng mas magandang ekonomiya para sa atin ngayon. Yung investment rating natin maganda, yung ekonomiya natin almost 7% growth, fastest in East Asia. At yung inflation moderate. At marami pong nakikinabang, lower poverty, lower unemployment. At dahil sa reformang ito ay kaya natin sabihin na ang gagawin nating tax reform ay mas makakabuti sa ating bansa. So, at yung huli po, nakita po natin na siyempre may mga concerns na pag nagtaas po tayo ng diesel o yung oil, dapat bababa po yung car sales. Pero yung totoo po, kahit na tumaas po yung presyo ng gasoline, diesel, yung 2008 saka 2011, yung umabot na po ng 60 per liter ang gasoline at 45 yung diesel, yung car sales tumataas pa rin dahil yung tax o yung presyo, isang bahagi lang lamang yan sa desisyon ng household kung kailan sila bibili. Nandyan rin po yung income, yung pag tumataas po yung income, siyempre yung real income, mas kaya na nila po yung gawin. So in summary, itong tax reform natin, kailangan natin tingnan as a package. Hindi lang po dapat yung oil lang, yung automobile lang. Dapat as a package po natin tingnan. Kasi yung totoo po, for majority of Filipinos, yung lowering of personal income tax ay makakadagdag po sa welfare or income nila. At kung gamitin po natin itong mga tax revenues para sa mga mahihirap, at dahil dito, in-earmark po namin ang revenues na makokolekta namin only to infrastructure, education, health, and social protection. Sa tingin po namin ay walang dahilan kung bakit hindi natin masolusyonan yung kahirapan at makita natin yung Pilipinas na maging mas maunlad sa next generation. So salamat po. Kami po ni ASEC Paula ang magte-take ng questions.
Celerina Mundo. Ms. Paula Alvarez.
Good morning po.
Magandang umaga po.
Aha. Regarding this proposal, I believe your target is to pass this reform measure within the year. So, was this factored in the budget that will be proposed for next year?
Opo. So yung sa budget po na pinopropose natin next year, ang target po kasi sana natin is mag-increase ng additional 1 trillion on top of our budget. So ngayon po, iba-budget po natin to as additional revenues kung maipapasa po natin siya within the year. Kasi po ang implementation po natin, for example, for oil, at saka po yung yung automobile is sa 2017 pa po. So sa 2018 pa po. So meron po tayong isang taon para po maglagay po ng measures kung paano natin mamimitigate yung ating impact po lalo na sa mahihirap.
So, we're eyeing like 3.8 trillion for next year, di ba?
Yes,
So, if ever, that will become 4.8 or sa 2019 pa yon?
Sa 2018 po.
Sa 2018, so
Opo.
next year.
Opo.
So, ano yung worst case scenario just in case na Congress fails to pass this proposed measure within the year?
Ang mangyayari po, hindi po natin, gagalaw po yung lahat ng ating infrastructure na pinaplano, hindi po natin sila masisimulaan. Kasi po, ang ini-aim po sana natin is kung makakuha po tayo ng dagdag na revenues, masisimulan na po natin yung mga infrastructure spending na gusto ng ating Pangulo. Pero since kung hindi po natin ito maipapasa, wala po tayong pagkukunan ng extra budget. So, yun po yung magiging repercussion niya.
So, how big yung sa infra if ever na maapektuhan? Meron ba kayong ballpark figure na alin-alin yung mga projects if ever at ilan lang yung magpupush through if?
Opo. Yung makakaapekto po is hindi po tayo makaka-raise ng 162 billion at malaking bagay po ito dahil po nasa pipeline na rin po ang ating iba't ibang mga infrastructure program. So talaga pong magiging malaking setback kasi hindi po natin magagawa yung ating nakaschedule po na mga project.
Question. Pero 'di ba we're eyeing like ODA from China, Japan
ma'am.
and other
Yes,
bilateral partners. So
Opo.
hindi ba doon tayo kukuha nung pondo natin para sa infra?
Opo. Yung mga bilateral agreements po natin, although meron po tayo, hindi po siya sapat para po dun sa tina-target nating infrastructure spending. So, yung mga MOU po natin, nag-propose na po sila ng iba't ibang project, pero kulang pa po in terms of, for example, yung dagdag na ospital, dagdag po na mga irrigation, yung dagdag po na mga classroom facilities, at saka kung gusto po natin magtaas ng sweldo ng ating mga government employees tulad ng mga guro, hindi po to aabot.
Benji Liwanag.
right now ho, dun sa Congress, pinag-uusapan na to eh. Ang nagiging, may proposal si Congressman Salceda as the same. Nagja-jive ba kayo nung kanya?
Opo. Sa katunayan po, sinusuportahan po ni Congressman Salceda ang ating proposed bill. Ang difference lang po is yung dun sa staggering of oil. So, parehas naman po ito at pwedeng i-reconcile kasi yun lang po yung pinagkaiba. Yung dun po sa naunang proposal, mas nakita po niya na mas beneficial sa economy kung ibibigay natin ng buo yung pag-akyat ng oil excise, pero yung ibang mambabatas naman po, iniisip nila na mas hindi mararamdaman pag nakastagger. So, yun lang po yung pinagkaiba.
Follow up dong kay Celerina, ma'am. The thing is, meron ba tayong, yung tanong kasi kanina, meron ba tayong alternative? Kasi yung sinabi ninyo kanina, it's just hindi natin maipapatupad yung mga projects, especially on infrastructures. But the thing is, meron ba tayong another proposal or paano natin adjustment kaya na pwedeng, kasi maraming hindi, ngayon pa lang yung sinasabi nyo kahit na staggered basis, yung 3, 2, and 1 na idadagdag natin for about a year, parang hindi pa rin to tanggap ng masa. Although pinaliwanag na natin, maganda naman yung paliwanag, but the thing is, ano po yung alternatibo na ibibigay ng Department of Finance para dito sa Kongreso, ma'am?
Opo, yung hindi naman po siya talagang alternatibo, pero isa po sa kino-consider natin is yung pag-iimplementa na nga po ng fuel marking. Ito pong fuel marking yung ating i-implement para po mabawasan ng oil smuggling. Pero kahit po ma-implement natin ito ng 100%, kukulangin pa rin po yung revenues na ating kakailanganin para ma-fulfill yung ating infrastructure gap. So sa ngayon po, naghahanap tayo ng ibang alternatibo, pero yung mga nakikita natin na pwede nating ma-implementa agad-agad ay hindi pa rin po aabot para dun sa kakailanganin po nating budget. So magkakaroon pa rin po ng kulang.
Hindi ho ba makakatulong yung investment packages na pumapasok from other countries?
Opo.
Kasi di ba si Pangulong Duterte, marami po yung ano, ma'am?
Opo. Yung sa investment packages po, marami po sila, pero kung ang plano po natin ay hanggang 2022, kulang pa rin po. Kasi po ang target po natin is by 2022, yung status of living kung baga na tinatawag ng mga Pilipino ay umangat po na kagaya ng kung nasaan po ang, for example, Thailand. At by 2040, yung base po sa mga gagawin nating reforma ngayon ay magiging ang ating income ng ating household ay para na pong yung sa Korea or sa Japan.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Ina Andolong, CNN Philippines.
Hi, ma'am. Just a point of clarification first. Your projected budget for infrastructure next year already includes or you already factored in yung ODAs ba?
Not yet, no. It's not yet there. Yeah. It's not yet there because it's we have to propose it pa, so it's late pa po. Within March, I think.
Okay. And then, ma'am, I understand si Secretary Dominguez and the team is in China. I'm not sure if they
Yes.
already returned. Can you give us specifics on the projects they agreed to have for the ODAs there from China?
It's not yet. Okay. We don't have the exact list of the MOUs that they already signed, but we'll release it after. We'll get the exact list.
How about, ma'am, maybe just a description on the priority sectors that the Chinese laid out for us?
The ones that we already know is more on railway po. Railway, tapos yung ating connecting roads, at saka yung rural development. So, yun po.
Okay, Joseph Morong, GMA7.
Ay, ma'am, good morning po. Ma'am, sa figures lang, magkano yung kailangan for infra
We need an additional 1 trillion per year po.
per year? Then doon sa 3.8, wala, sa 2017 to na budget, right?
Opo, yung sa 2017 po kasi, nagawa na po siya, yung previously. So, ina-adjust lang po natin at hindi pa po siya na-take into account.
For implementation ng 2017, ilan yung mga nasa pipeline na...
We don't have the exact figures, pero I think the last we know is we have 62 projects already. most of these are already in the pipeline and for implementation. Yung iba po, inaantay lang po natin yung mga clearances.
And they have the budget, the 62.
This is mostly from ODAs, pero yung gusto po natin, hindi pa po natin na isasama.
Okay, ma'am, I'd like to focus on the auto excise tax. Would you be able to quantify kung magkano yung, how much it will reduce yung mga nabibenta na kotse?
Yung dun po sa auto
If you implement
excise, ang amin po kasing dato is kahit po nagtataas tayo ng presyo, tumataas pa rin po yung mga sales nila kasi po ang determining factor, yung mas malaki pong nakakapag-determine is yung income. So dahil po mababa ang ating interest rates, yung mga auto plan na nakakabenta pa rin po sila kasi po nade-divide nila yung amount ng kotse at kung mas malaki na yung take-home pay ng mga manggagawa, mas marami po silang pera to invest yung para po sa mga car loan.
So in terms of sales, mukhang walang masyadong
Yung
epekto.
sa datos po namin, umaangat po yung car sales kahit po yung price ng oil at saka yung sa kotse tumataas po.
Parang hindi rin na marireduce.
Opo.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? Pia, Renyada? Rappler?
Hi, ma'am. Yung dun po sa tax reform package, how on board are other sectors on this? Were you able to consult, for example, yung automobiles? Kasi are you expecting thus any opposition when the law is being passed?
Yung sa iba't ibang sectors po, inuuna po natin yung mga transport groups, lalo na po yung sa public transportation, kasi po sa tingin namin, sila yung mas malaki yung concerns. So, nakipag-usap na po kami sa kanila at hanggang ngayon po, nagda-dialogue pa po kami kung ano po yung mga concern nila para po yung kanilang pagpasada, like yung sa ating mga jeepney sectors, paano po natin sila matutulungan para yung, yun nga po, yung sa Jeepney Modernization Act, nakikipag-ugnayan po tayo kung paano natin yun mai-implement ng mas maayos. Yung sa mga bigger companies po, like yung manufacturing of automobiles na businesses, hindi pa po natin sila kinoconsult kasi dinadahan-dahan po natin na yung mas poorer sectors po yung ating inuuna.
Tapos ma'am, follow-up lang po dun sa China trip. Kasi we heard also that the president might return to Beijing in May. So, by any chance, was his May visit discussed during the trip of Finance Secretary, and especially if there's an economic agenda during that trip?
We don't have any information yet if he will come back in May. I think it's still being fixed or it is still being scheduled. But as of now, Secretary Dominguez as well as the other economic managers are, yun nga po, already talking to our other development partners. And they are already signing some of them. But some of them we still have to review so that we are sure if these contracts would be more beneficial for the Philippines.
Ma'am, any idea when the loans will be available to mga MSMEs? They mentioned that they signed contracts already.
We don't have the exact timeline yet, so we're still waiting for
Thank you,
it.
Pia. Tina Mendez, Philippine Star.
Sir, ma'am, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you please explain yung exemption sa mga vehicles such as trucks, cargo vans, jeeps, and special purpose vehicles as cement mixer, crane truck? Bakit sila ang na-exempt?
Okay. Yung exemption po kasi ng mga vehicles na ito, kung titignan nyo, ito po yung mga vehicle na ginagamit pang pasada, ginagamit po yung mga trucks na sa mga probinsya, yung mga utility vehicles. So, hindi po sila kasali sa excise tax kasi po ang idea po natin behind the excise tax ay yung privilege po na nakakabili ng sasakyan, yun po ang ating tinatax. Since itong mga klase ng vehicles naman po na ito ay ginagamit sa trabaho, tulad ng pangpasada at saka pang-deliver ng mga goods, hindi po sila kasama dun sa excise tax.
So ma'am, how about yung mga cement mixers, crane trucks? So, sa mga big businesses naman ng merong
Ito po kasi ginagamit rin po siya for public use. So, yung mga pagko-construct po in general, hindi na po sila tinatax ng malaki kasi po ang gamit po nila ay sa pag yung business nga po at trabaho. So, hindi po yun yung privilege, kumbaga, na as compared to nakakabili po ng mga luxury vehicles, yun po.
Thank you, Tina. Celerina Monte, Manila Shimbun.
Ma'am, can you confirm, there's this plan daw of the economic team also to go to Japan to make similar like follow-up on the 1 trillion yen loan na ino-offer ng Japan?
Opo. Sa ngayon po, hindi po natin alam yung kanilang exact schedule. Pero ang alam po natin is every time po, kunyari, meron tayong offer at for example, may MOU na po ang presidente at saka ang isa pa pong bansa, yung ating economic managers, kailangan po nilang i-clarify kung ano po yung mga MOUs na isasama doon at kung paano po natin to mas mai-implementa na mas maganda po yung scheme.
So we're sending a high-level delegation also?
We don't know yet if when or if they will be going there anytime soon.
Ma'am, regarding dun sa infra, di ba yung target this year ng government is 5.4% of GDP?
Yes, ma'am.
So if ever hindi maipasa itong proposed measure na to, how would that impact on our target na ma-increase yung infrastructure, yung sa GDP, yung ratio?
Opo. Do you want to explain?
Yung budget po natin ng 2017, pinasa na po. So, we will implement it. So, yung sinasabi po natin ay yung 2018 budget. Magsisimula ito sa March yung preparation. So, kung hindi po natin naipasa yung tax reform, mahirapan po tayong pondahan itong mga infrastructure. So, nandyan po siya sa budget pero unprogrammed fund siya. Ibig sabihin, hindi sila pwede magsimula kung wala pong sapat na pondo.
So that means, di ba ang target natin is para maka-level tayo with the other Asian countries is at least 5% of GDP.
Yes.
So, it's unlikely to achieve that target if ever the Congress won't pass this measure.
Tama po yan. No tax reform, no infrastructure. So, we will just muddle through.
So, mga gaano kababa lang yung magiging target
Well,
if
yung
ever?
target po ng DBM is 7% of GDP. That's 1 trillion pesos in a few years' time. Kung tayo po ay hindi aakyat ng more than 5, yung GDP growth natin mas mabagal. Kasi kahit na gusto po natin na mag-grow yung business natin, kung wala naman yung infrastructure at 3 to 4 hours yung biyahe natin, siyempre yung productivity mo natin mababa. Kaya sa tingin ko, mas kailangan natin bigyan ng pansin itong paano pondohan itong 7% of GDP na infra na dapat ma-achieve natin by 2022.
So far, ano yung feedback from Congress and the Senate on the possibility
kami po
of passing?
ay nagda-dialogue with Congress. Almost every week may hearing. So, ang kailangan siguro po ay tingnan natin in a package. Ano po yung over the long term at hindi lang per sector, ano po yung mas maganda para sa buong bayan. At siyempre, nakikinig din po sila at inaayos rin po namin yung communication namin para mas maintindihan po ng mga taong bayan yung tax reform.
Okay, thank you. Malacanang Press Corps, no more question. Thank you, Assistant Secretary Paula Alvarez, Undersecretary Carl Keldrick Chua, Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella. Yes, Spokesperson Abella. Joseph Morong,
You're free.
and then the opening statement.
All right. We see more silver linings in the socioeconomic political landscape. Thousands of families in waterless communities nationwide now have access to potable water that's coming from the DILG. Around 300,000 households nationwide who belong to the waterless communities are now benefiting from the completed 554 potable water supply projects under the Sagana at Ligtas na Tubig sa Lahat or Salintubig program since it started in 2012, according to the DILG. Secretary Sueno said that Salintubig program provides levels 1, 2, and 3 potable water supply systems to municipalities and barangays which are waterless and or with low water service coverage with high incidence of poverty and waterborne diseases. He explained the department allotted 770,000 in 2012 for the implementation of 262 Salintubig projects. Of these, 259 have been completed, 2 are ongoing implementation, and 1 is on procurement stage. Another one? The Philippine-Malaysia barter trade reopens this coming February 1. on the 1st of February, barter trade between Sabah, Malaysia, and the island provinces of the ARMM will reopen, as announced by the Mindanao Development Authority Secretary Abdul Khair Alonto on Wednesday, January 27. It had been shut down for almost a year already. The Chief Minister of Sabah, Malaysia, Musa Aman, announced the lifting of the trade embargo, which came about after a string of kidnapping incidents involving Malaysian victims by the terrorist ASG group in the island provinces. The reopening of the cross-border trade will be initially in the three island provinces. However, it will eventually expand to other territories of the ARMM, even to General Santos City. Plans of putting up a consular office in Kota Kinabalu to attend to the needs of the Filipino Muslims have also been revealed by Secretary Alonto. Also, we have here the message from President Rodrigo Roa Duterte regarding the Chinese New Year. Each beginning signals new chances and vast opportunities for change, and change can mean forward move, a rising or a leap towards a better station, a steady ground, a reason to be grateful for and proud of the gift of life and the fulfillment of our aspirations. The government shares the joys and hopes of our Chinese friends and Chinese Filipinos who have found a root and reason for staying in the country. They have enriched the Filipino culture and history on their own. They have contributed to the economy by trade and investments, and their cuisine has been dearly familiar to many family homes, Filipino homes. Their philosophy and attitude in life are a wellspring of practical lessons that all of us, regardless of nationality, can learn from. May all of us develop a more profound appreciation of our heritage as two distinct yet intertwined peoples, and further fortify the goodwill that we have shared over the years. To everyone else who believes in the miracle of beginnings and who makes a choice for hope against fear, my best wishes on this auspicious season of the Chinese New Year. Signed, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, the President of the Philippines. We will now take a few questions.
Benji Liwanag, DZBB.
Sir, good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, yes.
Sir, may reports na nag-resign na raw or si AMLA, yung head ng AMPLAC na si Abad, Judy Abad.
We'll need to confirm that. Okay.
No
There's no
confirmation
official statement.
until right. That's it. Thank you very much, sir.
Sure.
The DOF is right here. Baka alam po nila.
Pang BSP daw yan.
No information.
No information. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Laila Salaveria.
Sir, on the Senate hearing yesterday, it appears that there are more cases of police involvement in using drug operations to harass foreigners and other people. Sir, does the palace think, because the president has promised to protect police officers involved in drug operations, is there a need to rethink or maybe repackage the president's message? And does the palace think that promise has emboldened police officers?
Has emboldened.
Rogue police officers to use the drug operations as a cover for their shenanigans?
Again, like we would say, the proceedings are running on parallel tracks. You know, one is to address the apparent, how do you put it, apparent proliferation, not proliferation, but the apparent existence of rogue cops. On the other hand, he, as the president said, he continues to protect their efforts, assuming regularity. But it's running on parallel tracks, and the president has said that he will deal quite severely with those who are erring.
So, kasi as of now, the police officers are denying involvement. So, just want to make it clear, they will not receive any legal protection from.
the President has said he will deal severely with those who are found to be engaged in, found to be guilty of. So let us see how it proceeds.
Sir, I just want to clarify kasi in the case of the police officers involved in the killing of Mayor Espinosa, he has backed their version of events. So I just want to know how he will deal with the police officers being tagged in the killing of Mr. G.
I would suggest that we just follow the proceedings and let it unfold as it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pia Reñada.
Sir, on the same issue, so did the president ever explain to cabinet members, or could perhaps the palace explain the difference between the two cases involving Mayor Espinosa and then G. Ikju? Because both had NBI findings on the case. There were NBI findings on the case, and despite that, the president seems to believe more on the case of G. Ikju. He seems to find it more credible, the NBI findings here, because as he said, he admits that, or he also believes that the perpetrators were police. So can the palace explain the difference between these two cases, despite the fact there were NBI findings for both? Did the president ever explain why he believes more on NBI findings in this case?
No, let's put it this way. The president has declared that he is definitely will back up police operations. However, as has been revealed already, he has also allowed the due process. So, like I said earlier, he's pursuing a two-track thing. One is he supports the police operations, and secondly, he will also not allow those who are rogue to go undealt with. So, if you're asking what are the differences, if he has explained it, or if he has actually discussed it with the cabinet or with his advisors, he simply has. There's been no discussion regarding the finer points between the two, but that, this is his position. He has already declared his position.
Joseph
Thank
Morong.
you.
Sir, may nabanggit na ba siya sa cabinet meetings how he felt about this case?
Which one?
The Santa Isabel?
No, there hasn't been any cabinet meeting since then. But he has certainly said, he's expressed his severe displeasure regarding the matter in his public speeches.
Sir,
Yes.
mag-shift lang ako ng topic.
Okay.
Yung sa I think nag-slide down tayo, sir, sa corruption index ng 9 places down. So, any comment lang, sir?
Well,
Perception.
also, if you notice, it has also the number is increased. The number of countries has increased. So the so-called decrease may be relative, but this is also, I would say that this is also a situation in which we're seeing that the continual operations are revealing the actual depth of crime, corruption, and situation of law and order in the Philippines.
No more question? Ina Andulong.
Yes.
Sir, will there be any action or directive from the palace following Senator Ping Lacson's when he showed the video of supposedly police officers planting shabu in areas that they were raiding?
And your question?
Do you want an investigation on this? Is there any directive to the PNP to look into of officers engaged in these acts?
All right. In terms of actual directive, we have not heard any new directives. But pursuant to the actual direction that the president has given, this is part of his agenda, his 3-point agenda, that he wants to deal, of course, inclusive poverty, which is why we have the tax reform explanation here, and secondly, also to the reduction of crime, corruption, and illegal drugs. So this is going to be part of that. We assume that, for example, in a sense, it's no surprise. It's a surprise that we discover these things, but definitely this is in alignment with the president's efforts to deal with crime and corruption, especially within government.
Okay, Joseph Morong.
Doon muna tayo, sir, sa South Korean killing. There is a South Korean presidential candidate Moon Jae-in, and he said that what happened to his compatriot is a diplomatic disrespect, and he's surprised that the president, instead of castigating the police chief, went to his birthday and seemed to cuddle him.
So your question is?
What do you think of that statement, sir? That the president, parang the action of the president, hindi nila nagustuhan na parang kinampihan pa yung chief of police when we have this kind of situation.
Well, we understand where the South Koreans are coming from. They feel deeply about it, and the president has also expressed his deepest and profoundest apologies. However, also let us be cognizant of the fact that it's also being spoken by a political hopeful, so it may be nuanced by some interests.
Okay. MPC? Other issues?
84%, sir, ng Filipinos say we should assert our rights over the WPS.
Yes. Already there has been a statement by the President, by the Secretary of National Defense regarding that. The President has said that he's not giving up our claims in the EEZ according to UNCLOS. It just so happened that the Chinese government has reclaimed 3 of the islands there, and they also have a presence in Scarborough. The Secretary has stated in the dialogue that na wag na nila tayong gawing proxy is because if you remember when the ruling was promulgated in July 12, we got a lot of bragging from countries around that we should forcefully assert the ruling in favor of the Philippines. But our government chose instead to have a soft landing. The President chose to have a bilateral talk with the Chinese government, which gave us some advantage. In other words, what the President is doing is asserting it, but in a different diplomatic style.
Okay. No more questions? Okay. Okay, Nas? Happy
Happy
weekend.
weekend.
Thank you, Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella. Thank you, Asek Alvarez. And thank you, Yusek Chua. Back to our main studio. Sa Radyo ng Bayan at PTV4.
I want to have a tutorial.